Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at this Toro TimeCutter. We're actually getting this ready for sale, and we realized that the battery is not charging at all. We're going to go over the full diagnostics and repair process to get this taken care of if you're having the same or a similar issue on your Toro TimeCutter Zero Turn. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as we go along if you enjoy the content. First thing you'll want to check if you're having an issue with the battery not staying charged is the battery itself. You can get it load tested, have a local battery place check it out, or you can test the voltage across the two top terminals, although that does not tell you everything about the battery. Normally, if it's going to fire up your mower and nothing hesitates, it does that quick, it's going to be halfway decent, at least enough to take a charge. Next, you'll check the connections at the positive and the negative. If you can grab one of these wires and move it at all with some force, it's not tight enough. These should be completely cranked down so this has a good connection against the post. These are, and this battery has load tested good, although the voltage is a tiny bit low right now after sitting overnight. It's only sitting at about 12.5 volts, which is low, but the battery does test good. That's not our problem. If that's good, you'll check the negative where it comes over and connects to the engine. You want to make sure that is also tight and free of corrosion. Follow your positive wire down to the solenoid. You can take, there's a couple tabs on either side off, and just kind of pry out gently on these. Small screwdriver, or you can use your hand. You basically want to get this cap up off of there so we can test the connections here also. Those need to be the same thing. If you can move them at all, they're not tight enough. Clean, free of corrosion, and tight is what we're looking for at all of those locations. Next, if you have a voltmeter, you can check your battery. You're going to need a voltmeter for the rest of these steps, so get one. They're super cheap. We're going to go to Volts DC, or you can borrow one for a friend. Mine have alligator clips on it, so it makes it a little bit easier to test. We're just going to hook up the negative to the black and the positive to the red. We get 12.49 volts currently. Again, that's a little bit low. We're going to start this, and as soon as you start your mower, if you're at full RPM, this should quickly go up. It should be sitting at, after just a minute or so, right about 14.5 volts. Let's see what this one does. Absolutely no change. It is climbing just a hair, and it'll get back up to right around that original mark we had or just below, but it should climb quickly. You should see it just consistently going up, whether it's 1/10 of a volt or not, but it should quickly climb well above 13 to 14.5 volts. That means that the charging system is not charging this battery. Either we have a bad connection with the charging system hooking up to the connections going to the battery, the regulator is bad, or the stator is bad. I'll show you how to test both of those. If we come just over the left tire, right next to the starter, we've got the regulator that is mounted. That regulator is what takes voltage from these two yellow lines. They come from up under the flywheel, and they spin across a magnet, and that creates an AC voltage. That provides AC voltage to this regulator, and then it outputs a DC voltage going to the two red wires that connects on the other side of the connector to the purple wires, and that's where it goes to your mower to charge the battery and to run all the electronics, the PTO and everything. This is not providing voltage to these wires, or there's a bad connection at the connector. That is very doubtful, but you can check your connector and your connections. Sometimes they do break off or burn. I don't see any sign of that here. So we're going to check the voltage coming from the stator by disconnecting these two yellow wires. Just kind of bend the tabs up and they'll pull apart. It's supposed to be pretty easy. Sometimes that's not the case. Not even really being held on. They make a good connection though. It's out. And then we're basically going to put our probes into these two wires, these two yellows. And we're going to run the mower at full speed and see what kind of voltage we get out of here. Now we're going to be checking AC voltage as opposed to DC voltage on those when we're running, because that's what it creates from the stator to feed the regulator before it gets converted into DC voltage. Now I'm going to put each one of my probes in here. It does not matter which one goes where. And we're going to test on our meter. We're going to look for the VAC, or volts, V with a squiggly line after it. That's AC voltage. And let's fire it up and see what we get on full throttle. We are getting at full throttle 0.63 volts. We should be getting right around 30 volts AC. That means our stator is not producing voltage from the flywheel spinning around the magnet, or spinning around the coils with the magnets going over it. The stator is going to need replaced in this case. If we were getting good voltage, we were getting 30 volts AC when we're going 3,000 RPM, that would mean that the regulator was not outputting enough voltage and the regulator was bad. But in this case, at the very least, the stator's bad, and we can test the regulator once we get the stator replaced. Lucky for me, I saved just about everything. So I've got a stator that we pulled off another engine that was junk. It was blown up because somebody didn't check the oil in it. Imagine that. Same part numbers and everything, even though the engine model number was actually a tiny bit different. And then I've also got a regulator if we need it. What we'll do is we'll install the stator and then we'll test the output, make sure it's good, and see if the regulator outputs voltage like it should after we get it all hooked up. We'll get this thing back up and charging, and luckily for us, we save over $100 on the used parts. Take a few bolts holding the shroud out at an H5 hex bit. Now we've got to remove the flywheel in order to get to the stator that sits underneath, which means we'll also have to take the two bolts out for the ignition coil. .23mm nut on the top. that comes off for any reason, get it out of the way. We're going to put this nut back on. We're going to put it on basically flush with the top, just like this. You want it flush because most of you aren't going to have a flywheel puller for this, and I don't prefer to use a flywheel puller really ever. All I'm going to use is a big flat pry bar, tire iron, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm going to pry right here. I'm just going to take my 3-pound hammer and I'm going to hit this square in order to pop it off. Get a little bit better angle here, kind of hit by the air box. You want to hit that as square as you can. If you've got someone to help you, you can put your hammer here, one of them, and you can whack another one like such. That's going to help you square it up a little bit. I'm pretty good at hitting them square where you don't ruin anything, but you don't want to hit it at an angle because you can damage this. And with just that little bit of motion prying and that one whack, it comes right off of there. If you're having to hit it a bunch of times, you're doing something wrong. Here we are. Magnets and everything are in good shape. If any of these have come loose or are broken, you'll have to replace this flywheel. If they're just loose, you can actually glue them back in, but here everything's in good shape. To replace the stator, we're going to remove the starter to make it a little bit easier. Just kind of gets it out of the way. Pull it back. Now we've got the wires. Go to the other side, under. Those are the wires we were testing. And we can remove the 5 10mm bolts up top. You've got 4 on the stator itself and 1 holding the wires in place. That way they don't move. Take that keeper off. This one is a different size. The other 4 are going to be longer, but they are all the same. Visually, looking at the stator, there's nothing that looks wrong, or at least at first glance, but we know the magnets are good and it's not producing power. Still not seeing anything that would say, hey, maybe this isn't right. I'm going to take these off, just kind of peel it back. It's kind of stuck to the side in this, like a little piece. I'm going to put my new one on. I've got it marked plug side and seat side. If you got a bunch of oil leaking from your top seal, now is not a bad time to do that either. While you're in here, I am going to put some anti-seize on all these bolts. Just the best way to do it. Keep them from getting stuck or breaking off. Kind of a mess, so I spray them over the garbage can. You will notice that there are some spacers, and that's kind of how it locks down into the metal on the engine. Kind of put this one back into the same spot. And then we'll tighten this down. You want to make sure none of this is pinched though. If you pinch this wire in between where it's supposed to mount there on either side, it's not going to charge yet again. Now we'll route these wires right back down under where they were before. Actually on this side of the other wires. Just like such, and all that kind of fits back in there. We can put the starter back on. Again, with these wires, you want to make sure everything stays out of the way. That way it doesn't get pinched in between the starter and the block. There is plenty of room back there. It doesn't seem like it most of the time. They've got to stay up kind of out of the way of that. Should be able to, after you kind of hold it against there, if you can't pull those wires easily enough, then you've got something pinched somewhere. Take the key out for the flywheel and just kind of clean this all up a little bit. Some sandpaper, never a bad idea to sand up the shaft before putting it back on. I got real accustomed to this doing Briggs engines. You don't sand them up real good, they'll shear that aluminum key right back off real easy. These steel keys, it's usually not an issue. Kind of get that lined up. If you've got a bunch of dirt or debris where those magnets are, you'll want to clean that up real well also. This one was super clean for what it was. Not wanting to go in there quite even. There we go. Guess I want my fan and everything else back on there first. Make sure that lines up. We'll tighten this down. Now we've got to space the ignition coil. Just going to tear one of our business cards in half since the fan kind of gets in the way. I know it pains me too, guys. Don't ever like to tear up your business cards. I'll clean up the magnet just because everyone loves to clean magnets up. You don't want a bunch of rust on it. It can change the spacing, but really functionality-wise, it's not going to affect the magnetic field. It has a little bit of surface rust. If you've got a bunch of corrosion on your mounts, that can cause issues too. Never hurts to just kind of give it a quick sanding. You can also sand the contact points here where it goes towards the magnet. More anti-seize. These ones like to break off very, very often and get seized in. You don't want that to happen. That's a nightmare. So you've just got both posts kind of up against the magnet. with your business card in between. You can take the business card out. If you're measuring with a feeler gauge or trying to figure it out, really a thin piece of paper, you want it just about as close as it can get without touching. And this would be like cardstock. Ours is just a hair thicker than 10 millimeters. No big deal. Let's put the top back on, and then we're going to measure the output voltage of the stator again. I forgot to mention earlier that the one with the longer shoulder is the one that goes in the front. Make sure they go back that way. The other three are the same size. Going back on our meter, 2 volts AC. Oop, I hit the hold button. You don't want that on there. Wouldn't show you anything. We're going to go again into the probes, or the wires coming off the stator. Let's fire this up. I don't know if I can keep that held there while I start it or not. Doesn't appear like it. Sorry about the light falling right in front of us. We are getting 30.8 volts from the stator now, which means it's good. Let's plug it into the regulator and see what the regulator actually outputs. These are still on the other side. Kind of pulled them up out of the way, I believe, at one point. Put them back where they should be. And again, it doesn't matter which one these plug into. Just kind of pinching those plastic areas, that way it locks in. Even though we saw it locks in well. Hold that out to the side, and all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to test to both of the red wires with my red terminal, and with my black I'm just going to have it to the negative on the battery. So we're going to test the actual output voltage right there coming off the stator. I'm sorry, right there coming off the regulator. Fire it up again, see if my light can't possibly stay. Nope, doesn't look like it. I'll just take it down. And this time we're going to be testing volts DC. So we're going to want to switch here to our volts DC. It's only showing me 13.75 volts. And the specs on this call for 14.5 at the battery. I don't really like that with what it's giving me here. I think we may have to go ahead and replace this regulator also. Since the regulator comes with the whole harness, including the kill wire and the wire going to the fuel solenoid, you will have to take the top back off, which I have already done. And then you're going to loosen the starter. You can either loosen it or take it completely off, either way. Maybe you just need to replace the regulator. I like it to be completely out of the way. So I'm going to remove, you don't actually have to, you can just remove that one bolt and the whole regulator assembly is off. And you can put it back on this plate and put everything back into place. But I want it to be all the way out of the way, just so we can get a better shot. I'm just going to pull it off and kind of tip it to the side. These are 10mm bolts that hold it onto the bracket. Both the same size. I'm going to bolt the replacement right up to it. To me, it makes it easier than trying to do it while it's still on the starter attached, with everything out in the open. It's our new one. We're going to have to unplug it again from the stator. This time I'm not really worried about the tabs because those are of the old regulator. And then we've also got to unplug the fuel solenoid wire. And now we unplug the whole harness from the tractor. All right. So this part is free. Everything's good. The only wire we have left is a one kill wire going up to the coil. We've got to get that off also. This tab you just barely pinch, or you can just pull it straight up. Just got two little tabs at the backside that kind of hold it into place. And then we'll pull our kill wire off of this side. Just comes straight out. And then it's locked kind of into a tab down below. That's free. It's out of the way. And we'll put our new one off the other one. It's still got the tab too. Otherwise you can reuse the one that came off. I'm going to plug it in just like the other was and clip it into the plastic at the bottom. The way it holds that wire up. Just kind of off the head. That's where you want it. Now we can get the old one out of the way. And start to hook up the rest of the new one. So I want this all to go around the back side of the fill tube. Plug in. It'll be the same wiring harness and everything. Blue wire coming off the fuel solenoid. Plug it in. Kind of pinch that plastic again. Make it hold in place. Good. And then we need to connect these two to the two coming off the stator. Those are a lot tighter than those other ones were. Good. Now we can put everything back on. Again, make sure those wires are all out of the way when you're doing it. Looking for the other bolt, I found it. Again, pull those wires and just make sure they're out of the way of everything back there. Everything is free. Nothing in the way of either mounting or anything else. Perfect. Let's see what we get in the way of voltage to the battery now. I guess I can test right here. First, of course I didn't put my cover back on, but go just to my red wire. Got my battery voltage. You want to be careful if you're running this without the shroud on. Don't get your hands in there. Pretty easy to test, pretty easy to repair, even if it is the stator or it's the regulator, any connections or anything like that. Some of you may be saying, hey, where's the fuse? You didn't mention the fuse. What about the fuse? Well, both of the fuses on this, if either of those are blown, this thing won't even start up. So it's not a fuse issue whatsoever. It's not an ignition switch issue because this charging system is going right into the battery before it ever hits the ignition switch. The switch doesn't turn off the voltage going to the battery from the regulator, the stator. This thing at 13.9 volts, I'm happy with it. It is charging up. It'll be perfectly fine. It could be because this battery just isn't accepting that much of a charge. Maybe it's a little bit low or something's going on. It's only a 230 cold cranking amp battery anyway. Maybe that has something to do with it. I could switch the battery out and do a bunch of testing that way, but I'm not going to. It's charging plenty enough to run this clutch and everything else. Now this one, when we got it, the clutch was actually bad also. The clutch was likely burnout because people just kept jumping it and trying to use it and then it'd die out or whatever. And they ended up burning up the clutch because they were running that clutch with way too low a voltage, probably heating it up. Like most people do, run it until it completely dies, till the wheels fall off. But we're going to get that clutch replaced, and then this will be a good running mower for somebody. Got a little bit of deck work to do, maybe some blades and adjustment and stuff, but otherwise this thing is in great shape. We got a really good deal on it. It'll make somebody a great mower at a good price. Hopefully this has helped you out if you have the same or a similar issue with your Toro TimeCutter, Titan, or any of the other models that are similar to this. It's the same process to get it replaced on this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the content.